Hey everyone, welcome to the Revive and Thrive Foundational Health Series. We're going to take 8 weeks to go over some of the most foundational health practices that we can have in our life to help us live a happier and healthier life. So if you're struggling with aches and pains, dealing with digestive issues, not sleeping well, all those kind of health things that pop up, this mini series is going to take you through that. We're just going to spend somewhere between a half an hour to an hour each week in here going through some of the key areas that people are missing. With it being the new year, we are going to set some goals to start things off and then go through 7 other weeks. So I'll tell you guys all about that in a second. But first, a little about myself. My name is Logan Grundy. I am the owner at Peak Health Revolution, where I've helped over 150 clients accomplish their goals. I'm also a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner in Vernon, British Columbia. I work at Habitat Health, where I've helped over 1,000 patients in my multiple years working as an acupuncturist and traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. At the clinic, you'll find me primarily treating pain and nervous system dysregulation, think stress, sleep, that kind of stuff. My online practice is mainly centered around helping hikers and then some other adventure athletes move faster and further in the mountains and doing that pain-free. So there's a big focus on moving well, having resiliency and longevity to our practice in the mountains or out and about and in our training. So that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about what we're going to get into in the next 8 weeks here. So week one, we're going to talk about goals and guidance. I'm going to give you guys some frameworks here today that will help set you up for the new year. Everyone's always making new Year's resolutions, but a lot of the times we're not being successful with those. So I'm going to talk about how we can be more successful with our goals. Then in the following weeks, we're going to talk about things like nutrition, breathing, sleeping, movement, recovery, habits. And then the last bonus one here is a bunch of different tools, my favorite tools to use to just make your health that much better. So we can focus in on all these things, but everyone wants the gadgets, the extra stuff. So I go through what my favorite tools are to help you in all of these areas. So that's what I have set out for you guys for the next 8 weeks. Let's jump right into our first week here. So let's start with why setting goals fails for most people. 91% of people by the time February ends have failed with their New Year's resolution goals. So we're going to teach you guys how to be a lot more successful with your goal setting so that you aren't one of those people this year. Likely, as you're going through thinking about your goals, you've realized that your goals are probably likely very similar to what they were last year because you didn't accomplish them. If you're one of the few that did, congratulations, good on you. But most of us are failing within those first 2 months, and it's because we're not putting enough detail around it. We're not getting specific enough. We're not being realistic with our goals. So I'm going to teach you guys how to be successful with your goal setting. And where that really starts is right here. It seems so simple, but essentially this, our thoughts, our wishes, our dreams, those are our goals. Those are the things that we're thinking about that we want. The problem is there is no alignment there. They're not actually lining up with our day-to-day actions. When our day-to-day actions line up with what we want, we accomplish those goals. So what I'm talking about, let's say hypothetically, you want to lose 20 pounds and be able to go on a 3-day, multi-day hike. You can't do any of that right now. You're overweight, you're super lethargic, and you don't have any clear guidelines of how to get there. What we need to do to make that actual goal happen, those thoughts, those wishes, those dreams, is align our daily actions, our habits, our routines, and our environment. And what I mean by this is like if your environment has chips and chocolate bars sitting around and there's no foam roller or a treadmill kicking around, you're not near a gym, those kind of things, then you're less likely to accomplish that goal, right? When we build in daily habits and routines of like, I'm going to do this every single day at this time, and then we start taking action on those things, that's where we see we become a lot more successful with our goals. Is we need to have alignment between what we're actually thinking and what we're doing. Sorry there, guys. I was getting absolutely blinded by the light, so I just switched. And now I'm standing at my desk, and this is exactly what I'm talking about by environment. If you have lower back pain, let's say, and you know that you sit all day for your job, get a sit stand desk, stand up, you're going to feel better. If you're trying to lose some weight, maybe put a little treadmill under it, those kind of things. That's exactly what we need to focus on when we're talking about our goals and our actions actually aligning. So that being said, what has the biggest impact on you actually accomplishing your goals? And it's actually very simple. It's broad, but it's broad for a reason because they all fit into the same bucket. So what keeps us from accomplishing our goals? Very simply, it is stress. No more, no less. The thing is that our body interprets a lot of different stressors as just being stress. It doesn't really care how you're being stressed. Stress is stress to the body. And if we overstress that body, then we're going to have a lot more trouble accomplishing our goals. We're going to see those crumble apart. So when we're talking about stress, what are we really talking about? We have both physical stress. So this might be, hey, you're working out. This might be, hey, I sit all day long and my back gets sore. Maybe it's picking kids up. Maybe it's you have a physical job, maybe working construction. So you're physically stressing your body all day long. So we have physical stress, we have emotional stress. So this is obviously things like stress, anxiety. Maybe you have finances that are tight and you're constantly thinking about those. Maybe work's just really busy and you're constantly thinking about that. Emotional stuff comes up, and maybe it's sadness, depression, whatever it is. Maybe all sorts of stuff, right? And then we have mental, which is a little bit different than our emotional. So mental could just be like, hey, I'm a student, I'm in school, and I'm studying a lot. That's still stress for our body. Then, of course, we have environmental. So this can be something like, think about if you had mold in your house and you didn't know that you had mold, or maybe you work with different chemicals, cleaning products, stuff like that. These are all stressors to our body. So we have to think with our stress and our goals is like, if this bucket represents our goal. So to top it off with water, that's when we reach our goal. So we need to have inputs into that. But if we have too many little holes in that bucket and too much coming out, then we're never going to fill that bucket, right? So we need to balance the stress, so all these little holes in our bucket, with all the inputs that we're putting in to actually reach that goal. So what are those inputs that we're putting in? Those go back to the things up here, right? What are our actions, our habits, our routines? So for instance, simple one, if we're trying to get fitter, our actions are going to be maybe go to the gym, go out for a hike or run, something like that. Those are technically physical stressors, but they're going to help us get to that goal. So we need to put a certain amount of physical stress in. We need to put those workouts in. But if we're stressing ourselves too much, maybe we'll also have a very physical job, or maybe it's not double physical there. Maybe it's environmental. Maybe we're working out lots, but we are getting exposed to something that we don't know about. Or maybe we're just really stressed with work. Too much of that's coming out. We're never getting that bucket full and reaching our goal because we're getting injured, we're not recovering, we're not having good workouts because we're not getting a good sleep because we're stressed out, those kind of things. So that's what we really need to balance to accomplish those goals, is like we have to take what we want, what we say our goal is, align our daily practices to that, and then we need to balance that with like what's happening in the rest of our life, how are we managing that stress. So with that being said, what I want to do for you guys today is show you a couple of worksheets that I'm going to give you guys access to. If you want, you can just send me a message after you watch this, and I will send these over to you. Is a breakdown of goals. We have 1 month goals, 3 month goals, 6 month and 12 month goals. So these goals, they don't necessarily have to overlap. Like your 12-month goal can be completely different from your 6 month goal, from your 3 month goal, from your 1 month goal. But what we see is that whatever the timeline on that goal is, we need to break it down. So our 3 month goal is whatever that goal is. Why is that important to you? That's a very important question that we have to answer, is like, if we don't have purpose behind our goals, we just say, hey, this is my goal, and dig deep with this too. So if hypothetically your goal is to do a 20-kilometer hike, well, why is that actually important to you? Is it because of the time that you get to spend with your significant other? Is it because of the things that you'll get to see? What do those things actually mean to you? Do they give you happiness? Like all of those things, we want to dig a little bit deeper instead of just that face value, what we write down as our goal. That's great, but then ask yourself like, well, why is that goal actually important to me? Oh, I want to get stronger. Why? Oh, is it because you want to be able to play soccer with your kids? Now we have a real goal. That's what we're actually working towards. So you want to redefine it and get really specific on that goal. You want to basically say, hey, how am I going to be able to measure your level of success? Make sure it's a goal that's relevant to what you want and to achieving like the big picture, right? Of like, if the goal doesn't align with what you want big picture, you're probably not going to accomplish it. So we need to have that alignment. It needs to be realistic. And in this case, it needs to be something that we can actually do within the next 3 months, given all aspects of your life. You can't say, hey, technically I could do this. And then once you're falling apart, you say, oh, but this, and this happened in my life. So you have to say, where I'm currently at in my life, can I accomplish this in the next, in this case, 3 months? Then you have to figure out how are we going to actually measure this so that we know if we're moving towards achieving that goal or if we're moving away from it or if we're kind of somewhere in between, right? So we need to have a measurement so we can have little milestones and see that we're progressing. And then how does this relate to the big picture of what you want in life? Can you realistically complete it in the next 3 months? Yes or no? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into detail on that goal more so than what we're going to do from there. And instead of just having a 3 month goal, especially like 3 months for sure, you notice this, but even more so in like 12-month goals, is that people will just set that 12-month goal and then 12 months later revisit it and say, I didn't accomplish it. Well, of course not. You didn't have any measurement to say, hey, am I actually making strides towards accomplishing that? So that's why we break it down into these monthly little sessions that are act as like milestones of like, am I doing the right things to move towards this goal? And if you're not, what do you need to adjust so that you can move towards that? So that's a monthly breakdown. And then we're just doing that same thing all the way down until we get to the daily habits, which is exactly what I talked about at the start there, is like your daily actions need to line up with what your goals are, right? So up here, 3 month goal is basically like, hey, those hopes, those dreams, the things that we want. And then all the way down here, we break it down to the point of like, what do I have to do today to make that thing actually happen? So you're just refining it instead of saying like, broadly speaking, this is what I want to do, and not having an actual game plan for it. You need to have a game plan to actually reach that. And then same thing here, we're just going to rinse and repeat that. 1 month goals, month goals, 6 month goal, and 3 month goals. And I would encourage you to have these as different goals, right? So we don't want to say basically be breaking this down as like my 12-month goal broken down into 6-month segments. That's not what we want to do. We want to have what is your big overarching like long-term goal, and then what are maybe some other ones that are either kind of relevant to that or completely different from that. So maybe your 12-month goal is a financial goal or like a family or relationship oriented goal. Maybe your 3 month goal is all around getting ready for the hiking season. Maybe your 1 month goal is just building in time for friends and family on like a monthly or daily level or weekly level of like, hey, I'm going to try and hang out with one friend every single week to build those relationships back up. Maybe your 6 month goal is to buy a new truck. Whatever these goals are going to be, they don't have to all be overlapping, and I encourage you to not have them necessarily overlap. So with that being said, that's how we're going to set goals to be successful versus to fail, is we're going to make sure we take our goals, what we think we want, our dreams, our wishes, make sure they align with our daily actions, balance that with our stress, and then finally, this is where we end up. This is where we were at before. Our goals were just as statements, and we were hoping that motivation would do it for us. Like, hey, my goal is this, and it's the new year, new me. Everyone's getting excited. There's my motivation. As soon as that motivation goes away, we crumble apart because we've created a statement. We don't actually have a goal. Our goal is just, I want to do this, versus what we're going to shoot for this year is having clear aligned goals of like, here's what I actually think I want. Here's the things I'm going to do each day. It's really refined down onto like a daily, weekly, monthly kind of level so that you can actually have markers to say, hey, am I making progress towards this goal? So like I said, you guys, we are going to be going over a bunch of different stuff here in the next 8 weeks. We kind of hit on goals today, so we're going to create our goals using these 2 worksheets. Send me a message and I will get that out to you guys in case you don't already have it. There we go, guys. I dropped my email address here. So if you would like access to these 2 sheets, just send me an email at peakhealthrevolution@gmail.com and be like, hey, I want the worksheets for setting goals, and I will send those over to you. And then I will see you guys next week where we'll talk about nutrition and then these other ones in the following weeks. Have an amazing week. take some time to sit down and create some goals that align with what you really want and get descriptive on what all those other details are that you're going to need to accomplish those.